Welcome to week 4 of the Apothecary Bag Sew Along by Sincerely Jim Patterns. Today we are going to be finishing up our bag and getting everything put together so you can start using this gorgeous bag. What we're going to start with today is we're going to start with our zipper panels. This bag has a recessed zipper. That means when you look down into the bag, you will see the zipper and open it up that way. Recessed zippers are great, but I always struggle a little bit with getting them perfectly straight. So we're going to go slow and go over the steps so hopefully we can all get a perfect straight recessed zipper. The first thing we'll do is we're going to be working on our zipper panels. You will have 4 of these. I chose to do 2 for my exterior fabric and then 2 with the interior fabric. You could do them all however you wanted, but the way I did mine was the way I wanted this to match my top panel. So that's how I chose what fabrics I was using for the zipper panels. So what she tells us to do in the pattern is she tells us to turn each short end a ½ inch to the wrong side. So the way I do this is I draw a line 1 inch down for my short end. I did this on all 8 sides. Then what I did was I put a little strip of double-sided tape here, and then I want to go ahead and take my tape off. And what I did was I just pressed this short end to that 1 inch line. That will give me each raw edge turned a ½ inch under. I did this for all 8 of my edges. Okay, so that's how you're going to get your zipper panels ready for your zipper. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our zipper tab ready. Now, I personally did not choose to do my zipper tab this way because I'm using that non-fraying bright pink soft vinyl. I wanted to use that as my zipper tab, so that made it a little bit simpler, but this is the way you would do it if you're using fabric. If you're using a cork or a vinyl in your bag, feel free to do yours. Just cut a small piece and wrap it around your zipper to finish that end. Okay, what she tells us to do is when you have your whole piece, draw a line down the center lengthwise of this zipper tab. Then fold both of your raw edges into that center line to meet. Then you're going to fold both of your short ends down a ½ inch. Then you're going to take your short ends and you're going to fold them in the middle to make your zipper tab, and then you're just going to put your zipper tab in there and then just sew on that. Sew it all around all 4 edges of your zipper tab. What I did instead was like I said, I just used my vinyl and just cut a small piece and sewed around there. Your choice on that. Okay, so now that we have our zipper end finished, make sure you have your zipper pull on your zipper. Okay? We want to make sure that our zipper tab is on the end that closes, not on the end that opens. So let me go ahead and get this off and get this out of the way so we can see everything. Okay, so this is the way your zipper should look. Zipper end on it, zipper pull on it. We're going to take one of our zipper panels. Remember, both of our raw ends are tucked under. And we're just going to line it up all along this long edge. I'm just going to do some clips in place. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open the zipper up just a little bit so that we can pull this up while we're sewing. So the way it's going to do is it's going to look, let me get this down here. It's just going to look just like this. I just made a little crease. And I'm just going to sew over that. When I sew over that, it'll lock it into place. Now, what I feel is the tricky part of this is that it can be a little tricky to get that perfectly even on the other side. So what I'm going to use is this little marker right here. Where I have this raw edge ending is where I'm going to attempt to have my zipper ending. So that way, if I do this on both sides of the zipper, I can hopefully ensure that I get it perfectly straight and even. Now what we're going to do here is we're just going to baste this down on our exterior 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. This is just a basting stitch. So let's go ahead and try to secure this and hold this down. If you're uncomfortable, you can use double-sided tape. I'm not going to. I'm just going to use my stiletto and kind of hold it in place a little. But this is what we're going to do first. I'm just clipping mine down and it's biting me a little bit. Whoops. Now we're coming up to this part here, and I want to try to double check to get it pulled to where those teeth start right where that edge ends. That is my goal. Okay, I'm going to go very slow. I'm going to use my stiletto. I'm going to hold it down and kind of push to keep everything in place. I'm not going to rush this part. Before I go over my teeth, I'm going to go back a couple stitches to kind of lock that in. Because once you go over those teeth, it's going to shift a little. So we want to get that kind of locked in as good as we can first. Okay. You can see that's what mine looks like. It looks pretty good. I'm comfortable with that. Now I'm going to attach my lining and sew 3/8 of an inch seam allowance now. And it's going to be pretty much right up against your zipper teeth. So I'm going to put these right sides together. Let's just do a clip or two here. I always like to sew against my teeth because I can feel them better. So I'm going to sew, like the teeth are right here. Let's open that up and see. And I'm going to have my zipper foot. I have an 1/8 of an inch foot. So it's going to be riding right up against those teeth. And that's going to kind of help me be my guide. That should be right around 3/8 of an inch. But it will, for me it will be. But it will depend on the size of foot you have and how close you can get. While I'm sewing, I'm just making sure I'm keeping everything lined up. Go ahead and get my pull out of the way. Okay, now let's look and see how that's looking. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Everything is lining up pretty good at this part. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip these together and I'm going to sew all around this panel. So that'll be top stitching the front next to the teeth, and then it'll be just considered basting against the raw edges. Whenever we're sewing like this, sometimes that lining wants to sneak back behind there, so keep pulling on it even while you're sewing to try to make sure they line up at the end. Okay, we're going to do 1/8 of an inch all the way around this side of the zipper panel. First one is done. We are going to repeat this completely with our second one. I'm going to go ahead and pull my zipper down so it's out of the way. What I'm going to do first, actually no, I'm lying to you. I'm going to have my zipper up while I'm putting it on, and then I'm going to zip it out of the way. Because otherwise I'm going to get a little confused there. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to try to make sure that I get my panels lined up. This is the part where I say lots of times mine gets a little crooked, and I want to avoid that if I can. So I'm lining up my panels. You can see my panels are meeting. They are correct. Now I'm going to take that one part of the zipper, and now that I've got this attached, now I can open my zipper because I know they're even now, and get that out of the way. And now we can just start working with this one side. I'm going to pull that up so that I can try to get those teeth right where I want them. If you remember, I want them right here at starting at that raw edge that's pushed under. Let's flip that to the side here and let's do it this way. There we go. Kind of tuck that in so I can get a nice little crease on it. Perfect. It's not wanting to stay. Just keep fiddling with it. Don't rush it. Take your time here. Okay, I feel really good with that. I'm looking. My teeth are almost perfect. I'm going to just practice zipping this up and seeing what it looks like and if it looks even that way. Okay, I feel really good with that, so I'm going to try my best to keep it that way, and so that the teeth don't shift while I'm sewing. Now, since I know going over these teeth will shift, I'm going to start a little bit below my teeth and tack that stitches a little bit and then go back here and catch that. Anytime we take our zipper foot over teeth, it has a tendency to move them around a little, and I just want to be as careful as possible with this first step here. I'm using my stiletto to hold it down. Sorry. Okay, I got that tacked. Now I'm going to go back and catch my teeth in really well. Again, this is just basting, so I'm just doing an 1/8 of an inch or 1/4, whichever you prefer. Let me check it again just to see if I've had any shifting. No, it still looks great. I do feel like this got a little bit higher. You can see how my panel got a little bit higher there, so I'm going to try to shift that down a little while I'm sewing on my lining. Okay, I'm going to put this right sides together, make another zipper sandwich. Pushing that down just a little bit. Again, I'm going to sew with my teeth up so I can feel it, and I'm going to sew right against that, which should be about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, which is what you want. I can feel that trying to shift on me. The lining is wanting to, the exterior is wanting to come up a little bit. I don't want that, so I'm holding and pushing it down. We want them to stay at the same length, so we have a perfectly symmetrical recessed zipper. I'm going to pull these back. Clip them wrong sides together and then top stitch and baste around all 4 edges, and then that will complete this recessed zipper, and we'll be ready to attach it to the lining. If you notice, I do a lot of common sense checks while I'm sewing just to make sure that I'm not messing anything up. I'll check my zipper, I'll make sure everything looks good, so definitely don't feel like you need to rush any of these steps. Take time to check before you stitch everything together. So I'm going to check it again. You can see that is definitely higher on this side, but it's not so much here. So this could be a little bit of a cutting issue. I don't think that'll affect too much, and I'll just have to be a little careful whenever I'm putting that lining in. You can see probably about, I would say maybe 1/8 of an inch higher. So it happens. I'm pushing it down because I definitely don't want to have any more of an increase. can see it is just a slight bit off. Not bad, but it always happens to me. I never get it perfect. Okay, just trimming up these threads. And now we are going to attach this to our lining. Now it is time to attach our recessed zipper to our lining panel. Now what I want to do is I want to center my zipper panel, just the panel, not the zipper, onto my lining. So I'm just going to find the center right there. I've already made a mark on the top of my lining panel. So I'm going to put that on there. Match them up. Now, tendency we have is to sew things right side together, but just remember with a recessed zipper, you're looking down at the zipper in your bag. So we need to be able to open the zipper to see the lining. So that's why this zipper panel will not be right sides together with your lining. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to, okay, that looks centered. I think for the small, it's about a little over 2 1/4. Yeah, let me just do a little bit. So it's about 2 1/4, I think, from each end, but definitely just make sure you center the zipper panel on your lining. Okay, I'm just going to baste this on because I'm going to sew my top panel on top of that, and that'll be a more secure stitch. So for this one, I'm just going to do about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Something else I should mention is that when I open my bag, I want to see, I don't want to see my zipper panel, my zipper pocket. I want it on the opposite side. So if you want to see your zipper pocket when you open your bag, then you need to have your zipper pull closing to the left on your zipper, on the lining panel with the zipper pocket. Does that make sense? So mine, whenever I open my bag, I will not see my zipper pocket. So if you want to see your zipper pocket when you open your bag, you should be doing this step with the lining with the zipper pocket. That was a confusing way to say that, wasn't it? Okay. Zipper panel attached to lining. Now let's get out our top panel. If we remember, our top panels are not complete rectangles. They are larger at one end than the other. So what we need to do is make sure we orientate it correctly. The larger end, which is the bottom, is what's going to be sewn onto the top. Now I went ahead and drew my seam allowance onto mine. It is 1/2 inch seam allowance on this. I'm just going to sew this on in place. Let me make sure I'm a little off on my side there. Okay. Let me look for that metal hardware, make sure that my zipper pull is out of the way. I do not want my needle to hit that. Make sure you do not sew over your zipper tail. It does not need to be in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to push up our top panel. But unlike when we did the exterior, we're going to keep that seam allowance up. So we're not pushing it down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch on our top panel, catching that seam allowance and securing it. anytime I top stitch, it's just 1/8 of an inch away. We're going to repeat this completely for the other side. Again, this needs to be centered, so I'm just going to check real quick to make sure everything looks good. This is the problem I have sometimes with things getting a little off center. So I want to be a little careful with this and kind of try to double check behind myself. So that's 2.5. I don't think it should quite be 2.5. Yes, so I am off. So even though it looks centered and I matched up my centers, I'm still a little wrong somehow. So I'm going to adjust this and see if I can get it better. Okay, I think that's right, but we're going to check it on everything. Okay, now this measures up right here, so let's see how my sides look on the bag. Okay, everything looks good, so I'm going to say that this is accurate, and we will see how it turns out. Again, I am basting, and what I'm going to do is the lining right side of the zipper panel and the lining main panel are right sides together, but your exterior, you will be seeing it. So I'm going to base this. I have one last top panel. Remember, we need to put it so that it is upside down, right sides together. When I say upside down, I mean that from the pattern piece itself. Okay, on this one, we're going to do 1/2 inch again, but now we need to make sure that this zipper does not get caught. I'm going to flip mine down. You could even clip it if you wanted to, but the main thing is to make sure it does not get caught in this seam. Adjust if you need to make sure your edges line up. There's a couple layers here, a couple different things going on, so you want to keep and check that everything is going together easily. I can already see my zipper pulls trying to slide down, so I'm going to be mindful of that as we get to it as well. Okay, I'm coming up on my zipper panel, my zipper pull. Pull that out of the way, hold it in place. Again, open and pull my panel up, leaving my seam allowance up so I can top stitch this all together. So you're top stitching your seam allowance and your top panel 1/8 inch away. So there is my zipper panel, there is my lining. This is what you should have. Now, we need to sew our sides together. Like I told you before, if I have anything with zippers or bulky hardware, it goes on the bottom. So I'm going to leave that there. And I'm going to line up my 2 seams first. Clip those. I'm going to make sure I get my zipper out of the way. Do this here, and I'm just going to baste those 2 seams real quick. Now I'm going to turn over and sew from the side with the zipper panel down. You can see I have it marked, my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm not going to clip a lot, just a couple there at the bottom. So now we're just going to sew down the entire length of the sides at a 5/8 of an inch of a seam allowance. She has us doing this a little bit more just so it's a tighter, more snug fit on the lining. So 5/8 of an inch of a seam allowance on your sides. Same thing on this side. Feel that zipper in there, make sure it's pushed out of the way. So we can look down, we can see we've got our recessed zipper in place. Everything's opening up nicely. Now it's time to put everything together by attaching the bottom just like we did on the bag previously for the exterior. On my bottom panel, I already have my quarter markings. I also have 5/8 of a seam allowance drawn on here. I also have my halfway center marks on my front and my back. And then of course our seam allowances are going to be the markings for our sides. So I'm going to go ahead and trim down this. I had not trimmed down my seam allowance yet. Okay, so now I'm just going to put these right sides together. Clip all the markings first and then go around the straight edges before starting to clip on the curves, and that just gives you a better finish. So for this bottom, I have it all clipped around, and we are going to sew this at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. Now I'm going to start in one of these straight spots just like I did on the exterior. I'm going to start here and then I'll hit my curves. I'm going to go slow. I'm not rushing this. Okay, let me check that out and see. Everything looks great. I feel good with that. Let me get my clips out of the way, and I'm just going to trim that seam down. And then we're going to turn the bag, the lining right sides out, and start attaching it to the exterior. We're going to turn our interior. I'm going to open that up. And I want to make sure that I caught everything. Everything's great. Okay, I'm just going to unzip that. I need that pocket unzipped because if you remember, that's the birthing spot. Okay, now I'm going to get my lining and my exterior, get them right sides together. Now, I do not want that. I want this. This is where you want to be careful about how your bag's going to close. I always like my bags to close on the left. So, of course, and I want this to be my front. So, I want to make sure I have that all accurate. And now I'm going to start matching up my seams. We'll start right here in the corner. We're doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance right around the top, and then we're going to trim it down to 1/8 inch. And then I'm just going to make sure everything is open. There's my pocket. It's open. I can reach in. I have right sides together. Let me make sure my zipper is tucked down in there. Make sure my connectors are all tucked down in there. Okay, I'm going to sew on my lining from the inside of the bag. I just feel that'll be the easiest for me. I'm going to trim down my seam allowances there at the top. Time to birth my baby. I want to check this recessed zipper because that is something that always gives me struggles. Let's push all that down. Get my recessed zipper down in there. Okay. I'm going to start clipping around my top so I can kind of teach it how I want it to go. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to close up my pocket and I want to top stitch around this top. Okay, so I'm going to close my pocket first and give these clips just a few more minutes to kind of, I don't know, get my memory on my top panel a little bit better. So I'm just going to, what I do is I just grab the corners of my pockets, kind of push them in with my fingers and kind of pull them tight and let that kind of naturally give me a fold there. You can close this pocket by hand if you do not like your stitches to show. This part doesn't bother me at all. So I always just close on my machine. I am just going to go across this at 1/8 inch. Okay, so I have everything clipped and now I just want to top stitch all along this clipped edge at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. That will be the last step I need to do before adding my handles and straps. So again, I'm just going to sew with the exterior of my bag against my bed. This is the way I've been sewing almost all of the bag. Okay, The bag is done except for my handles and straps. Like I said, I sewed these off camera. I think I'm going to, do I want them? Yeah, I think I want to do them this way. And there we have it. We have finished our bag. So I want to thank you for joining me in on this sew along. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. I definitely love the way this bag is put together and made. Now, you can see it stands up just fine. I would have done this bag next time in a cork or a vinyl, or add some more stabilizer just to help give it a little bit more sturdiness. But all in all, man, I think it's gorgeous. I think it's a great pattern. I think definitely it's a great bag to kind of stretch out your skills a little bit, so you can get a little bit better if you're still a new bag maker to try something new. After you've completed this, post, take time to make a beautiful photo shoot with your bag, and then post your bag under this comment in the group, and also share it in Jenny's main group and everywhere. Just show off your bag and all the hard work you put into it. I cannot wait to see your finished bags, and thank you so much, and you guys have a great day.